Hello class, and welcome to your radial symmetry name project. So in this lesson, you're going to be creating a radial artwork. Radial means that it is symmetrical in a circular fashion. So be sure you're looking at the Google slide for step-by-step instructions and all those key terms on radial balance. So we've been studying different types of balance, and now we're moving on to radial balance, which is symmetrical in a circle. And we're using our names as inspiration for this artwork. As we design our names the same all the way around our paper, it's going to become somewhat abstract. You might have a hard time actually seeing it. That's okay. It creates a really fun design, and if you look really closely, you'll be able to see your name. All right, so for this project, I'm going to tell you the materials that you need, and then we'll get started in the first steps for this project. You are going to need an 8.5 by 8.5 piece of copy paper. So we need thin paper for this project because you're going to be using a window to trace. You're going to be able to need to see through it. So we don't want really heavy drawing paper or anything that's like cardstock or poster board that's not going to be see-through. So copy paper is best. You're going to cut it into a square. It needs to be a square. That's crucial. So 8.5 by 8.5 piece of copy paper. You're going to need a pencil and an eraser. You are going to need Sharpie markers. You don't have to use all the colors. If you just have black, that's fine. If you have a variety of colors, that works too. But you need at least one Sharpie, whatever color of your choice. I would avoid yellow if you only have one, because again, we're going to be using that Sharpie so that we can see through the paper. Yellow might be a little hard. You can use that later as you decorate, but as we are designing your initial name, and I'll be showing you, you're going to need a little bit of a darker color so that you can see through your paper. All right, so a Sharpie marker, and then colored pencils. As we begin adding color after you design your name, you're going to be coloring it in. So you can use colored pencils, you can use regular markers if you have regular markers at home. You can also use Sharpie if you want to use Sharpie. So we're going to need some sort of coloring material. Crayons work fine, whatever you have at home. So we want to fill in our entire design with color, no white spaces showing at the end. All right, follow along as we learn about radial symmetry as we design your names using radial balance. All right, step one is you're going to take your 8.5 by 8.5 square sheet of copy paper, and we are going to fold. Remember, you can follow these steps also on the Google slide. There's step-by-step instructions and images for you to look at, or you can pause this video anytime as you follow along. So we are going to fold our square into a triangle, making sure the points align as best as you can. So I'm going to make sure those points are aligning, overlapping as perfectly as you can, and then I'm going to fold into a large triangle. Once I have my first large triangle, you're going to do that again. You're going to take this side and fold it to that side, making sure the points touch. By doing this, we are dividing our square into 8 even sections. So it's really important that you fold accurately so that it's symmetrical in a circle. All those sections are divided evenly. All right, so I'm going to fold it one more time. So this is our third fold. So I'm going to again take this side and align it with this side. Make sure you press really well because again, we want to be able to see those creases. That's going to help us in our design process. All right, so now you should have a triangle that looks like this. You have a side that is closed and a side that is open. And then you're going to have a point at the top. This is where we are going to design your name. You're going to start with your first letter. This is my folded side. Your first letter is going to start on your folded side, and your last letter of your name is going to end on the open side. So you're designing your name across. What's important, you can see in this example, I'll fold it for you, is you can see that my letters, I did Dundon, my last name, you can choose your first name or your last name, are touching both from the bottom to the top of the whole triangle, and I'm filling the space. So I don't want to see your name just floating in the middle. It won't work design-wise. So it should be floating and small. Your letters need to be touching the tops and the bottoms all the way, filling the entire triangle. I also don't want your name to stop like here and be this long and then you have this dead space. So it needs to fill the whole triangle all the way across, and your letters need to be touching the tops and the bottoms all the way across. So to do this, We're gonna use a pencil and we're gonna sketch lightly so that we can easily erase. Remember, I'm starting with my first letter on this folded side. I'm gonna do my first name. You can see in a lot of my examples, I always do my last name. So I'm gonna give my first name a try. If it helps you, if block letters, oh, that's another key point, has to be block or bubble. We're not just gonna write our name plain. So if you wanna take a minute and practice your name and block or bubble letters on another piece of paper before you start, or a secret trick is I always write my name lightly, just normal, not block, and then I outline it to make a block or bubble. So that's a trick you can do to get your block letters. So also, as I'm trying to work my spacing and make sure that my name fills, just do your name non-block first, really lightly, so I can get the spacing down. I don't want my name to stop again in the middle. It needs to go all the way to the end. So I'm doing my name really lightly, making sure my letters are touching the top and the bottom as I go through. And again, notice they're not block right now. I'm gonna go back and change them to block once I'm happy with the spacing. Okay, so I've got my name in there. I kind of feel like it's a little crammed over here and I have some space, so I'm gonna erase. So this is why we did it lightly. I'm gonna erase and scoot my T over and my A. I'm gonna scoot everything over. So this is why sketching, drawing lightly, doing it in pencil. These are all important processes when beginning an artwork, because you might need to make some changes. Now I can fit my I and my E a little bit better. Okay, so now I have my lettering, all just in regular lettering, filling the space from top to bottom and all the way across. So once I'm happy with it, now you're gonna go and re-outline it and make it into a bubble or block letter. You can be creative or you can keep it simple. We are gonna be coloring these, so if you wanna save your creativeness for the coloring portion, if block and bubble letters are tricky enough just as is and you don't feel like adding additional flair to them, that's totally fine. All right, so I'm gonna take my pencil again, and now I'm going to re-outline these and make them block or bubble. Again, do this lightly so you can easily make corrections and changes. And as you outline that letter, you might need to then erase, depending on how you're approaching it, that you'll erase the center line if you're gonna go around it or not. It just kind of depends on how you choose to create your block or bubble letters. So lightly, lightly, lightly is crucial. Notice how much I'm having to erase, and I've had a lot of practice, so. Okay, so now I've got my name in all block letters. The next step is, once you're happy with it, you are going to unfold your paper like so. Make sure you unfold it every time we outline with Sharpie. If it's folded, it'll bleed through, and we don't want that right now. All right, so I want it nice and flat. I'm gonna pick a color, whatever color I choose to outline my letters, I have to use that same color every single time. So I'm gonna choose purple. You can use black if that's all you have at home. or any color will do, except I would avoid yellow because we want it to be a relatively dark color so that we can see through when we go to the window. And you'll see that step here in just a sec. All right, now I'm gonna take an eraser. I should probably grab a big eraser and erase the whole thing so that it's nice and clean. I don't see any of my pencil lines. And voila, okay? Now, you are going to make sure it's daylight. You can't do this in the dark. Now you are going to fold this once, like so. And you can see that you can already just sort of see through it. And now you're going to go to the window. I wonder if I can video this. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the window and I am going to, with a pencil, gonna hold my paper up to the window and I am going to trace my letters. And I know that when I'm tracing them, they're backwards. That's fine. You're gonna have your name backwards because now we're starting the radial design. Okay, sorry. My storage on my phone ran out, so my video stopped. But anyway, I finished tracing my name at the window with pencils. So now I have my name here that I did with Sharpie, and I've got it re-outlined again. It's backwards. We're gonna be filling your name. We're gonna be tracing and repeating this process in each one of these triangles, so then it becomes a radial pattern. So now, after I've traced it with pencil, you need to open it up flat, and then you're going to re-outline it with your Sharpie. The reason why you have to lay it out flat is if I were to keep it folded and outline it with my Sharpie, it would bleed through and then you would mess up your design. So always lay it out flat, and I'm going to outline my pencil with Sharpie. Like so. So now I've got my name going this way and that way. I filled 2 blocks. If you want, it's always good to take an eraser after you do it with Sharpie, clean up any pencil lines. All right, so now, next step is I'm gonna fold my paper in half this way. So I've got both my names. Now I'm gonna go to the window and I'm gonna trace it in both this square and this square. Can you sort of see through? Once I go to the window, I'll be able to see better. And I'm gonna be able to do 2 at a time. And we're gonna keep repeating this process until they're all complete. Check out video 2 for the remaining instructions on how to complete your radial name.